In the golden sands of Mecca, a remarkable story of faith and perseverance unfolded. It was a time when the message of Islam was spreading, but the cost of believing in one God, Allah, was immense. This is the story of Bilal ibn Rabah, a man who rose from the depths of oppression to become one of the most honored companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bilal was born into slavery, the son of an Abyssinian woman and an Arab man. His skin was dark, and in the eyes of his oppressors, this made him lesser, a mere commodity to be bought and sold. But Bilal was no ordinary man. Beneath his chains and humble appearance lay a heart filled with courage. He served as a slave to Umayyah ibn Khalaf, a wealthy merchant and one of the fiercest enemies of Islam. Umayyah was cruel and harsh, treating Bilal as nothing more than a tool to serve his greed. But even in his servitude, Bilal had a dignity that could not be crushed. When the message of Islam began to spread, it was whispered from ear to ear, heart to heart. The words of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were unlike anything people had heard before. He called for the worship of one God, equality among all people, and justice for the oppressed. Bilal heard these whispers, and something stirred deep within him. He was drawn to this message that shattered the chains of arrogance and oppression. One night, he sought out the Muslims in secret, and soon after, he declared his belief in Allah and His Messenger. But in those days, declaring one's faith was dangerous. For a slave like Bilal, it was a death sentence. When Umayyah learned of Bilal's conversion, his rage was uncontrollable. "How dare you, my slave, follow this Muhammad?" he roared. Bilal stood silently, his gaze unwavering. "Ahad, Ahad," he said softly, meaning one. Umayyah's anger boiled over. He dragged Bilal to the scorching desert, where the sand burned like fire beneath the sun. Bilal's hands and feet were tied, and he was laid flat on the ground. "Renounce your faith, Bilal!" Umayyah bellowed. But Bilal's response was always the same. "Ahad, Ahad." Umayyah's men placed a heavy boulder on Bilal's chest, crushing the breath out of him. "Say you worship our gods or die," they demanded. But Bilal, weak and battered, whispered through dry lips, "Ahad, Ahad." His faith in Allah was unshakable. Even as his body suffered, his soul remained free. News of Bilal's torture reached the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. Among them was Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, a man known for his compassion and generosity. Abu Bakr went to Umayyah and said, "How much will you take to free this man?" Umayyah laughed cruelly. 10 gold coins. It was an outrageous price for a slave, but Abu Bakr handed over the gold without hesitation. "Take him," Umayyah sneered, thinking he had made a great deal. But Abu Bakr replied, "Even if you had asked for 100 coins, I would have paid it." Bilal was finally free, no longer a slave to men. He was now a servant of Allah alone. Bilal became a close companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His faith, tested through fire and suffering, only grew stronger. When the Muslims established the first mosque in Medina, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose Bilal for a special honor. "Bilal," the Prophet said, "you will call the adhan, the call to prayer." Bilal's voice rang out across the city, calling the believers to worship Allah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, Allah is the greatest. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. The people of Medina were moved to tears by the beauty and sincerity of his voice. Bilal had once been silenced by oppression, but now his voice carried the words of Allah to the hearts of millions. Years later, when the Muslims peacefully entered Mecca after years of persecution, Bilal stood by the Prophet ﷺ. As the idols in the Kaaba were destroyed, symbolizing the end of idolatry, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ instructed Bilal to climb to the top of the Kaaba and call the adhan, the site of a former slave. A man once humiliated and oppressed, standing atop the Kaaba as the first mu'adhin, was a powerful reminder of Islam's message that all humans are equal before Allah. As Bilal called the adhan, tears streamed down the faces of the believers. It was a moment of triumph, not just for Bilal, but for the message of Islam. Bilal continued to serve Islam until his last days. After the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ passed away, Bilal's heart grew heavy with sorrow. He left Medina unable to bear the absence of his beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Years later, in his final moments, Bilal's wife wept, saying, "What sorrow!" But Bilal smiled and said, "No, say, what joy! Tomorrow I will meet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions." Bilal ibn Rabah passed away, leaving behind a legacy of faith, courage, and devotion. His story continues to inspire generations, reminding us that true freedom lies in submission to Allah alone. Bilal's story teaches us that no matter how difficult our struggles, faith in Allah gives us strength to endure. His life is a testament to the power of perseverance and the beauty of standing firm in the face of hardship. Let us take a lesson from Bilal. No matter what challenges we face, let our hearts always say, Ahad, Ahad, Allah is the only one. If you like the story, please like the video and also subscribe. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.